Today on Aviation This Week, we'll bring you a recap of the Aviation Roundtable Initiatives Conference held in Lagos on setting an agenda for the new Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Management. According to the forum, it is imperative for the new minister to collaborate with key industry players to ensure the growth of the industry. Hello and welcome to the program. I am Bukola Koka. 3 months after the inauguration of a new administration in Nigeria, President Bola Tinubu now appears set to begin the full implementation of his renewed hope agenda with the swearing in of 45 new ministers. The name Festus Keyamo is not a new one in the governance space, but his appointment as aviation minister has got experts in the field talking. They are especially worried about whether he will understand the peculiar challenges in the sector. Our background report reviews the Aviation Roundtable Initiatives breakfast meeting for the second quarter of the year 2023, where those concerns and others were raised.
The conference hall of the Gulf View Hotel, GRA Ikeja, is hosting professionals in the aviation sector. The conversation at the forum is the advancement of the aviation sector in Nigeria to ensure that more private citizens with means invest in the sector. Another topic up for conversation is the issue of lawmaking by the legislative arm of government, and practitioners advocate making of liberal laws that will attract investment. The outgoing president of the Aviation Safety Roundtable Initiative gives a brief on how far organizations have worked with previous governments to aid development in the aviation industry.
Merger was successful in banking and should be successful in aviation. Dwelling on fleet size rather than share capital. In the banks, they use share capital. In the airline, it has to be fleet size. On-time performance of Nigerian airline is woeful and deplorable, with an average of 61% delay, except Ibom Air, yet very far below acceptable world average. Sustaining a flight in a slot regime such as London, New York, Joburg, with such deplorable on-time performance will be practically impossible. At foreign airlines must be restricted to a single point of entry into Nigeria, destination of their choice. This will also enhance hub creation. The two airlines must be designated to all international destinations presently being serviced by foreign airlines. Airlines A and B, that is Nigeria Force White and Nigeria Force Green, their fleet together must reciprocate all the foreign airlines. If BA and Virgin, they are doing 15, the two of them must do 15. If the market size is 15, we divide the 15 to 2. The British will fly 7, the two Nigerian will fly 7.
The chairman of the event and an investor, Senator Musa Dede, enumerates some issues facing private aviation carriers, which set the table for the main speaker.
We did request that changes in policies should be discussed with stakeholders and implemented in a manner that will create least disruption and instability to the industry. Okay? CBN should empower the commercial banks to create a window of long-term low-interest funding for direct lending to aviation industries. That doesn't mean that you have to hold an aircraft. The industry will require at least 500 billion for this purpose. In addition, government should set aside 20% of excess crude account fund for infrastructure development in the transportation sector, not just aviation, but in the entire transportation sector. Now, government should review downwards all taxes and charges relating to airlines operation. These should include, amongst others, cancellation of import tax through duties on aircraft and spares, because they keep coming up with different rules and regulations depending on who is the president, who is the minister, who is the DG or chairman of customs. Okay? Significant reduction of stamp duty on aircraft purchase and lease agreement, waiver on aircraft leases, withholding taxes and VAT, reduction in land charge by fine.
The theme for this quarter's brunch business meeting is setting an agenda for a new administration increasing the numbers, a topic the chairman of Air Peace Airlines speaks extensively on.
When we talk about reforms, first of all, BASA, the second thing is finance. Make loans available to the airlines at very little interest rates. And they will blow and make it easily accessible too, like in other climes. I have loans. I'm swimming in loans. Some of my loans I took at 26%. 26%. When I tell foreigners this, they say, no, it's a lie. I have loans. Some are 26%, some are 23%, 24%. At the time I got at 13%, it was short-lived. The thing now went up again. Nobody does that. So, if you want the airlines to blossom, allow them to access finance at a rate that is affordable and at the same time reasonable. Not what is happening now. Then, of course, we talk about local production of Jet A1. What you buy fuel in the morning is not what you buy it in the evening. The thing fluctuates. Some people said, oh, airlines, you people should hedge. Me, I've hedged before. At the end of the day, the person couldn't even give me fuel.
There was also a panel session which focused on improving investment in the aviation sector, the subject matter.
I want us here to agree.
Resolutions here are expected to reach the President and his cabinet of ministers when he appoints them, with Nigerians paying keen attention to see how some of the issues highlighted here are addressed.
Next is our interview segment featuring the new president of the Aviation Roundtable Initiative, retired Commodore Onitsiji, who speaks on the integral role for the aviation sector in economic development.
Having looked at the various administrations and their relationship with the aviation sector, we were of the opinion that too much interference in the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority performing its functions are partly responsible for the problems we have. You know, if the regulator is not free to do its job, to wield the stick, to penalize, to sanction people who do not conform to what ought to be in the sector, then what you are seeing here is what will result. Or if you have a regulator that exercises its functions without let or hindrance, you will have some elements of sanity. But such body on its own must be peopled by knowledgeable people, people who have the requisite cognate experience, people who will not compromise on safety, on standard, or the best practices as obtained globally. For example, if you choose to run an airline, presumably you should know the ethos, the ethics of being in that sector, and you'll be expected to comply. Because right from the outset, when you bring out your outline of business case to show what you want to do, whether you want to run a scheduled flight or you want to charter the flight or other mode of operation, there are procedures for you to do that. And once you are approved, after you have shown demonstrable competence in those areas, because they won't just let you loose on the public unless you can show the initial recruitment, the competencies of those you are bringing. They will test flight, even the aircraft that you are bringing, and of course the crew too. They will see them in operation. Once they know they have the requisite competencies, of course you get your air operator certificate. And when you are now there, you don't operate in isolation. You are going to operate in conjunction with other people or in the midst of other players in the industry. There are the ground handlers, There are the people who get your cargo onto your plane or things like that. And of course, there is the facility managers who do the passenger facilitation in terms of aviation security, what is allowed and what is not allowed. And on your part, your crew, your engineers must be above board. All these are prescriptions, the pre-flight checks, ensuring the aircraft is truly ready, checking the fuel that goes into the aircraft to ensure that everything is at the ready. All those are to be enforced. Then operating the business itself, it presupposes some elements of good corporate governance. By that we mean you must display accountability, transparency, and responsibility in your financial dealings. Because some of the time, the aircraft some start with leased aircraft, and some take loans to be able to provide other ancillary facilities that will make them function. Where people do not observe good corporate governance, you will see people diverting funds from proceeds, tickets, sale of tickets, cargo, and all, into other things. Meanwhile, there are obligations they owe to those who have rendered them services, people who did catering for them, people who evacuated wastes, people who supply water into the airplane to make it fit for flying, people who provide ground handling services, the towings and the chairs and things like that. You should be able to discharge your obligations to them. You should be able to pay them. Your books should be open to the regulatory authority to check whether you are doing what you need to do. Because when you depart from that, you could compromise safety, and safety is key. So you need a regulator that is off and doing, that knows its onions. Its various departments are filled with qualified people, not the nephews, relations of a governor or minister or even the president. We have seen all that in the past. But as at date, and those are part of the good things that we at Aviation Roundtable commended when we were assessing the last Minister of Aviation. We felt that he scored 0 on almost everything. But we considered that he did appoint some people who were competent to some places, like the NCA, the fellow is still there. And this other chap, Captain Rabiu Yadudu, he performed wonderfully well. Because aviation is a collaborative thing. It requires cooperation. These two gentlemen demonstrated that. They listened. And that's what I told you earlier, that whomsoever is going to be appointed the aviation minister must be very knowledgeable in his own right. He must come and he must bring something to the table and must be amenable to suggestions and recommendations,
Yes.
as a way to deliver on the mandate of the aviation sector, So coming back to what I said earlier, anyone that is a professional, anybody that has a passion for the job plus competence, that is potent combination that can deliver a vibrant, dependable, profitable, and customer-oriented satisfaction services in the aviation sector.
And still to come on aviation this week, China is witnessing increased passenger volume due to holiday celebrations in the Asia-Pacific region. Stay with us. Welcome back. On Newsflash, the General Aviation Terminal of the Murtala Mohammed Airport in Lagos, designated for local travel, is now wearing a new look. The curator and airport administrator speaks on this new outlook.
The Dover, yes, and this is the typical Dover, Maroko, the former Maroko, houses on stilts. I once had an exhibition in London, and most of the white people were very impressed, and they were telling me, this work depicts, this is the eagle of our coat of arms. This is the flag. People are making way, they have made space for the air. The eagle is carrying that air.
We are operators. We are not political people. We will continue to make our case based on law. And we believe that our case is insurmountable, is truthful, and it is only the best for the country. The mandate I gave to the management is create an environment where people can eat, can shop, can entertain, and in the process fly. It is not an environment where you come and queue in the sun because you want to fly. If you decide you want to come and fly in Emirates, you can go to we have a gallery for flowers. You can decide you want to buy flowers. You can decide, oh, look, I'm just going to have lunch before I travel. You can decide that, oh, I just want to even do my communications issue. All the big communication companies are here. You can decide that, oh, really, my flight is 4 hours time. I can go and stay in the lounge, which has internet services, which has food and everything, and do my business. That is the idea. What we've tried to do is to uplift the standard with the hope that anybody who wants to build an airport tomorrow will have all these standards incorporated into their airport.
We feel that this is the right place to be in. MM2 is a unique place. It's a pace setter and the first of its kind in the country. And the airports are a peculiar facility. It's meant to be the parlor of the country. It's meant to be the parlor of the state. Just like you make up your room and you leave your parlor for your strangers. Airports are like that. It's a welcoming space for everybody. So it ought to be a foremost projector of our culture. That's our feeling. That's why we opened the gallery here. The theme of the whole thing here is to have a platform where art can live, thrive, and interact with people. There will be different aspects of this gallery. There will be the normal component of the gallery where we will sell art, interact with art, and expose art to the people over the years and update art. There is also the space, a kind of a celebrity space, where we will have space for achievers in the society, where we'll have space for collectors, people who have promoted the art, want to say one or two things about them. It could be corporations, it could be individuals, but the most important thing is that we want to celebrate our own. We want to use this gallery as a platform to celebrate our own and encourage people.
And on the foreign scene, China has approved the resumption of flights by North Korea airline into its country. This is as the Chinese civil aviation industry logs record higher number of passenger trips in July, and with a visible impact on the economy.
China's civil aviation sector handled 62.4 million passenger trips in July, setting a new record of the monthly number of passenger trips. The figure is 83.7% higher than that in July last year and 5.3% higher than the pre-pandemic level in 2019, according to the administration. The civil aviation sector in China had seen a rebound in transport turnover for 7 consecutive months before July, and the booming summer travel demand in the month further fueled the surge. In July, the whole sector recorded a total transport turnover of 11.3 billion ton-kilometer, up 67.1% year-on-year, and surpassing the 2019 level for the first time since the COVID-19 pandemic broke out. In breakdown, domestic airlines handled a total of 59.07 million passenger trips in July, up 74.6% year-on-year and 12.1% higher than that in July 2019. International airlines, which are still in the process of post-pandemic recovery, handled a total of 3.3 million passenger trips in the month, up 32.6% from June, but was only 50.9% of the figure 4 years ago. In other parts of Asia, according to the Chinese Foreign Ministry, Beijing has approved North Korea's state carrier Air Koryo to resume flights to China. Though the ministry did not provide more details such as the resumption date or what the flight's weekly frequency may be. China is North Korea's biggest trade partner and neighbor. Last month, a Chinese delegation visited Pyongyang to celebrate the 70th anniversary of the end of the Korean War, the first to visit the reclusive state since the pandemic. Flights between the two countries were suspended in early 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic as both shut down borders to other countries. Previously, Air Koryo and Chinese state airline Air China flew routes between the two countries.
Ryanair expects passenger numbers in Central and Eastern Europe to surge by at least 50% over the next decade as it looks to dominate in a less developed market, also targeted by Wizz Air. Europe's biggest low-cost carrier has ordered as many as 300 Boeing jets as it seeks to take advantage of the rebound in air traffic following the COVID-19 pandemic, and the company sees demand for new routes in Eastern Europe.
We plan to grow in the whole region of Central and Eastern Europe in upcoming years. Our recent Boeing order, we just ordered over 300 planes, is going to support our growth. We plan to have over 300 million passengers in upcoming decade per year. So Central Eastern Europe is an important element of this growth. We want to focus very much on this region. We see that this is going to be a large part of our upcoming expansion.
Hungarian budget airline Wizz Air will be its main competitor as it offers similar cheap fares as well as connections to the Middle East. The pertinent question is, who will dominate the Euro aviation market?
Airbus delivered an aircraft assembled in North China's Tianjin municipality to a European client for the first time on Tuesday. The European company that took delivery of its first A321neo aircraft assembled at Airbus's final assembly line in Tianjin is the Hungarian low-cost carrier Wizz Air. The A321neo, the largest member of the A320 family, can carry up to 244 passengers. As a narrow-body aircraft in its payload capacity is comparable to a wide-body aircraft. Opened in 2008, the facility in Tianjin serves as the first Airbus commercial aircraft assembly line outside of Europe. Since its first A320 delivery in 2009, the center has delivered more than 600 aircrafts. The European manufacturer expanded the capability of its Tianjin line to A321 production in 2021 to meet its ramp-up goals and growing demand for the model. The first A321neo assembled at Airbus Tianjin was delivered to Chinese private carrier Juneyao Air in March. The construction of a second final assembly line for Airbus A320 series aircraft in Tianjin will begin in the fourth quarter of this year.
And this is where we touch down on the program this week. We hope you've enjoyed the flight. Join us again same time next week for more aviation reports from around the world. I am Bukola Koka. Bye for now.